Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now, Kimi Raikkonen is out of contract at the end of this season. It may have been mentioned once or twice, and it has been widely reported and many are expecting that he will call time on his Formula 1 career. Now, back in January, I did look at who could replace Kimi Raikkonen in 2019, but 4 races into 2018, has anything changed and what are Ferrari's options for next season? Now, first off, and probably the most obvious, is Kimi Raikkonen himself. There is actually no confirmation whatsoever that he is going to retire. For all we know, he could be sat in a room somewhere negotiating a contract for next year as we speak. He has had an excellent start to 2018. 3 podiums? Could have been 4 if it weren't for the incident in Bahrain. And to be honest, I kind of feel as though Kimi Raikkonen is driving the best he has since probably 2013. So although he probably is coming to the end of his Formula 1 career, to say that he's finished or that he's not in contention for that seat next season is probably very wide of the mark. In fact, I would be very surprised if Ferrari aren't talking to him, because both them and Sebastian Vettel would love to keep him on for 2019. They've got a great relationship and they work well together, and that's kind of what Ferrari like, so I'm not writing him out of this one at all. My gut feeling is that he will retire at the end of this season, and I kind of feel like he's just going to drive absolutely brilliantly all year and then give us all the finger as he walks out the door at the end of the season, because that is just so Kimi Raikkonen. Another obvious choice, of course, is Charles Leclerc. He is part of the Ferrari family. He was dominant in Formula 2 last year. That is the only word for it, dominant. But he has had quite a shaky start to his Formula 1 career. By his own admission, of course, he feels that he's driving too aggressively, trying too hard almost. And that's come across on track. He's had multiple spins, incidents. He's just not looked quite on his game. But he is only 4 races into his Formula 1 career. Let's not forget that. And he did finish 6th, albeit with quite a lot of luck, in Baku. Now, that 6th place has got people talking about him as a possible Ferrari driver again, but as I said last Sunday, one swallow doesn't make a summer. He needs to be consistent through the season. He needs to get rid of these mistakes, and although he's not going to finish 6th every weekend, he needs to make sure he's outpacing his teammate if he's going to be in contention for that seat. I can't see it happening in 2019. I think it's too early for him. Ferrari, when you look back historically, they don't generally take a youngster on too early. They'll want to see what he can do. They'll want him to get a couple of years under his belt. I can see him being in a Haas next year, getting a promotion, if you like, through the Ferrari family, if we want to call it that. It makes perfect sense in many ways, so I wouldn't be totally surprised to see that happen. Again, sticking with the obvious options, and Daniel Ricciardo, he is out of contract at the end of 2018 and has been strongly linked with that seat at Ferrari, as well as possibly moving to Mercedes. Now, given reports in the last couple of days, it looks as though Red Bull are likely to switch to Honda next year. Talks, of course, already starting, so that's already uncertainty over their performance in 2019. And Daniel Ricciardo has already said he wants to be competing for a world championship. He feels he's ready. There is also the argument that Red Bull have already been pretty vocal in the fact they're going to be building the team around Verstappen long term. Does he really want to stay part of that? And without dragging up what happened at the weekend again, that collision with his teammate will definitely be playing on his mind. He's got to be considering other options. Now, from a Ferrari point of view, Ricciardo has worked with Vettel before, and they got on very well as teammates. There's no denying that. And I think his signing would be absolutely spot on for Ferrari. It'd be perfect for them in terms of the hunt for the Constructors' Championship, that consistency he will bring. The problem is, I can't see Sebastian Vettel wanting him in the team. And from what we understand, he does have a say in that. I mean, Ricciardo is definitely an option for Ferrari, and Ferrari is an option for Ricciardo. And to be honest, out of all of those I'm going to list today, I think he is the most likely to get it. I'm not going to say too much about the next option because I did kind of cover it in a video last week on the channel, but that is Fernando Alonso. There is no denying he is one of the best drivers on the grid. He is a double world champion. Ferrari know him, and he has shown multiple times that he can drag a poor car around to a good result. So with the right car, he is right up there scrapping. However, like I said last week, I think bridges have been burned, and he isn't exactly going to be a long-term option. He'd be a great option if Kimi decides to retire and they just want somebody in for a couple of seasons to see where Leclerc is, but I don't see Ferrari taking him on. I can't see Vettel wanting him as a teammate, and looking at the things that Fernando Alonso wants to achieve, I cannot see Ferrari allowing him to race in other series. So I do not ever see him returning to Ferrari. Now, next up on the list is a driver that is highly rated by myself and by others on the channel as well, and around Formula 1, but it's one that I don't actually see happening, and that's Nico Hulkenberg. He's been linked with Ferrari in the past quite a bit, and with the separation of driver and car weight next season, could see him back in the frame because his height isn't going to be as much of an issue. I mean, clearly he's a very talented driver who deserves a crack at a top drive. The problem is, There are younger drivers that are already probably ahead of him in the queue. And frankly, there's another driver on the grid that I believe Ferrari would take over him, which I'm going to come to a little bit later in the video. He is going to be my pick for the seat. But also commercially, Ferrari aren't going to want two drivers of the same nationality in the team. Don't get me wrong, it did work for McLaren, but I think that worked because it was two British drivers in a British team. I just can't see the business side of Ferrari wanting two drivers of the same nationality in that car. Hulkenberg is a very good driver and a top talent, but like I say, there are so many drivers coming through that have probably already jumped the queue, and I can't ever see Ferrari taking him on now. Before I come on to my pick for the Ferrari drive in 2019, I'm going to give 4 drivers what I guess you could call is an honourable mention. Now, I guess this is quite an obvious one again, and that's Daniel Kvyat. He is, of course, already part of the Ferrari family as a development driver. And once again, as I've said a couple of times, if they want to wait for Leclerc and see what he's like in a couple of seasons, Danny Kvyat could be a good fit. However, he has got a reputation for being overly aggressive, and quite frankly, with the greatest of respect to him, there are better options for Ferrari right now, and some of those are available at the end of 2018. Next up, and stick with me on this one, Lewis Hamilton. Now, he has said in the past that it's every driver's dream to drive for Ferrari. However, he has also said that he wants to end his career at Mercedes. I do not believe for 1 second this is going to happen. I'm putting him on this list because I know that a lot of people have been linking him to that seat because he's not signed his Mercedes deal yet. The only way this will ever happen is if Vettel suddenly decides he's off, or if there's a swap deal between Mercedes and Ferrari. Next up, though, is Valtteri Bottas. Now, if Mercedes do land Daniel Ricciardo, Ferrari could swoop for Bottas. He's already proven that he's good enough to be driving at the top level in Formula 1. He's been fantastic so far in 2018, very unlucky not to be leading the Drivers' Championship, and throughout 2017 he was solid and consistent. And as we saw in Hungary last year, and this is important, he is a team player, and that is definitely going to appeal to Ferrari, as well his attitude and his personality. Of course, it's all going to come down to what Hamilton decides to do, and also if Mercedes even want to replace Bottas. But if they do, he wouldn't be a bad option for Ferrari at all. My last honourable mention, and please do stick with me on this one, is Kevin Magnussen. Now, 3 months ago, if anybody had said to me that a Haas driver would be in the frame for Ferrari seat, I would assume they were talking about Romain Grosjean. In fact, back in January, I put him forward as an option then. But out of the 2 Haas drivers, he is the most likely to be considered as of right now because his start to the season, let's say Baku aside, has been fairly impressive and, quite frankly, surprising. Now, I don't think either Haas driver are going to get a seat at Ferrari next year. I don't think K-Mag's bad boy personality fits, and I certainly don't think Romain Grosjean's been good enough. The reason I've put Magnussen there is, yes, because of his start to the season, but also because of Haas's ties to Ferrari. But who is my pick for that 2019 Ferrari seat? Is a pick that might surprise a few people, actually, and that is Sergio Perez. Now, the reason I say it might surprise people is because I'm always talking about Nico Hulkenberg and a number of other drivers in the midfield, and I don't really give Sergio Perez enough credit. I'll completely admit that. And that's not because he's not a very good driver, because he's a fantastic driver. He's very quick. He's massively consistent. He's shown that, particularly during his time at Force India over the years. The reason I don't think he gets the credit from me that he deserves is because he does kind of slip under the radar a little bit. You know, he'll carry on plugging away in that midfield. He'll pick up the points consistently. And then every now and again, he crops up with a race like he had at the weekend where he grabs a podium, staying cool and calm under pressure and delivering a brilliant result. And there has been a lot of talk this week already about how underrated he is as a driver, and I tend to agree with that. Okay, he had his chance at McLaren a few years ago, but for me, that was maybe a little bit too soon for him. And to be honest, that McLaren wasn't exactly a brilliant car. But when it comes to Ferrari, one thing that might put them off massively is he has had run-ins with his teammate. Of course, we saw last year all of that with Ocon. That will have put Ferrari off because they want a good team player in there, somebody that will come in and work well with Sebastian Vettel. But as we saw when he was teammates with Hulkenberg, he's definitely got that side to him as well. And let's not forget as well, Perez should be a race winner, so nearly won the 2012 Malaysian Grand Prix. So with everything else he's achieved in his career, and everything I've just said there, Sergio Perez is definitely a very good option for Ferrari, and that is why he's my pick. All of those, though, are of course just my opinions, but what do you think Ferrari's options are for 2019? Do you think Kimi Raikkonen will retire? And who is your pick for that Ferrari seat? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will be back on Saturday with this week's news roundup, and don't forget to join us on Sunday at 6 PM UK time for this week's live stream. In the meantime, though, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.